Right guys, welcome back. Recently I've been getting asked a similar set of questions by a lot of people, and this includes things like, why is my bearded dragon sleeping so much? Why does my bearded dragon almost look lethargic and not very active? Why does he look almost sluggish? Why has he slowed down on eating? He's not eating as much. And the short answer to all of these questions is basically their bearded dragon is going down into hibernation or brumation. And I know this because currently where I am in the UK, it is December and it is the winter, and bearded dragons naturally go through a brumation cycle, and these are all signs that their bearded dragons are trying to go down into hibernation. So in this video, we're going to basically just talk a bit about brumation, but also I'm going to educate you on exactly how you can actually brumate your bearded dragons at home. So hopefully by the end of this video, not only will I answer a lot of your questions, but hopefully you'll have a good idea sort of how to go about this at home with your bearded dragons. Now, in the wild, bearded dragons naturally go through a cycle known as brumation. Now, this happens during the winter. It will never happen during the summer. Usually brumation can start around sort of October time, and then it goes throughout the winter through to around March sort of time. And again, brumation or hibernation is a perfectly normal thing for a bearded dragon to go through during the winter. Now, wintertime in the wild, temperatures basically drop off at night time, and they just get a lot colder at night time than they usually do. And basically in the wild during autumn, as the temperatures start to decline and the daylight starts to decline, bearded dragons will basically assess whether it's time to go down into hibernation or not. Now, when a bearded dragon decides that they're going to go down into hibernation, in the wild, what they tend to do is they'll basically go and dig a burrow under the ground, or they'll find a place under the ground, basically just burrow down and hibernate for the winter. Now, they reckon that these burrows under the ground usually sit at around 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, somewhere within that sort of range. So straight away we can tell that bearded dragons can take this sort of temperature during the winter at night time. Now, during the winter there's going to be days where it's basically going to be a little bit warmer than yesterday, for example. Now, on these hotter days, bearded dragons may also come out of their burrow to just bask for a bit, or sometimes what they'll do is they'll come up out of their burrow and they'll basically sit in the opening of the burrow, and they'll basically just sit there for a little bit, bask and absorb all of that nice heat on this warmer day, and then all they'll do is basically go straight back down into their burrow and they'll go back to sleep. So basically what we're seeing here is even during hibernation or during brumation, bearded dragons will still every now and then come up to basically bask for a bit if it's a warmer day. But during this cycle, typically bearded dragons tend to be a lot more sort of sluggish. They tend to slow down quite a lot, and they're usually a lot less active than they usually are during the summer, for example. On top of that, bearded dragons tend to have a loss in appetite during brumation. So going back to the original questions at the start of the video, which I've been getting asked, as you can tell, these are all signs of hibernation, and this is how I know that this is what my customers are experiencing. But like I say, during hibernation season, bearded dragons will basically be quite sleepy, and they will sleep a lot. They're just going to be a lot less active. They're not going to eat very much, if anything at all. It's nothing to be worried about. Like I say, it's a completely normal, natural thing that bearded dragons go through in the wild. So in captivity, obviously this is going to be no different. It's still going to happen in captivity, and again, it is a completely natural thing for them to do in captivity. Now, before we go over how to actually hibernate your bearded dragon at home, there is one other thing that I'd like to just talk about. So basically, in the wild, around sort of end of autumn towards the start of winter, what happens is obviously the temperatures start to drop off at night time and the daylight hours get shorter, and it's usually at this point that a bearded dragon in the wild is basically going to assess whether it's time to go down into hibernation or whether or not they need to actually dig their burrow at this moment. So in captivity, what we're basically going to try and do is sort of basically simulate this. And the reason why we want to sort of simulate this is to basically trigger the bearded dragon into thinking, okay, it's now time for me to go down into hibernation. So How are you going to do this? Now, this is exactly what I do, and I'm sure a lot of people do a very similar thing. It's a lot simpler than you might think. So, to begin with, what I would suggest doing is around mid-October, so around, I don't know, the 20th of October, what I tend to do is I basically will give my bearded dragon one last meal, whether that's bugs, veg, whatever, okay? I'll give them one meal, and then I'll completely stop for 2 entire weeks. I'm not going to feed them. I'm just going to leave them be. Let them do their own thing. Just don't feed them for 2 weeks. And you'll understand why in a second. Now, basically, what we're doing is, at this point, we just don't want to feed them. Keep the temperature the same. Keep the lighting period the exact same. We just want to completely stop feeding. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're allowing them time, or this 2-week period, to basically fully digest their food and basically defecate it. Get it out of their system, push it all out. We want them to have an empty stomach going into hibernation. And this is what this 2-week period is basically going to allow for. So once this 2-week period is up, it will basically be the 1st of November. Okay, so on the 1st of November, what I will do is basically normally you will have your heat lamp and UVB lamp on for 12 hours and then off for 12 hours. Now, on the 1st of November, what I would recommend doing is instead of having it on for 12 hours, have them on for 8 hours. So we're reducing it down from 12 hours down to 8 hours. So it'll come on in the morning at the exact same sort of time. Again, same temperatures in their enclosure. Don't change anything like that. All we're doing is we're basically turning the heat lamp off and the UVB lamp off basically a few hours earlier. Again, I'm still not feeding the bearded dragon. I've stopped feeding it. We haven't fed it. And like I say, we've reduced that daylight period from 12 hours down to 8 hours, and we're going to continue this to around the mid of November. So again, around 20th of November, let's say. So there's a few weeks there where we've got it at 8 hours on, and then the rest of the hours are off. And then basically on the 20th of November, all I'm simply going to do is reduce it again from 8 hours down to 6 hours. So again, in the morning, the lights will come on at the exact same time as normal. But instead of being on for 8 hours, it's going to be on for 6 hours. And then both the heat lamp and the UVB lamp are going to switch off after 6 hours. Now, the reason why we're doing this is basically, as we spoke about earlier, bearded dragons on a warmer day will still come out to bask here and there. They might do, they might not do. It does depend on whether the bearded dragon wants to or not. But we're still providing that temperature hotspot or that basking spot throughout this cycle for if they want to come out and bask. But what we're doing is we're reducing the daylight period, because what happens is, because the lamp and the UVB lamp isn't on for a longer period of time, once that light turns off, the temperatures are naturally going to start dropping off, which means that at night time, the temperatures are going to be a lot cooler than if you had had it on for 12 hours, for example. So this is why we're basically reducing the daylight cycle, just like it happens in the wild. For example, here in the UK in September, it gets dark at sort of 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We're currently in December and it's dark by 4 o'clock. So again, you can already see that this happens naturally, and this is all we're basically trying to do. And again, we're still not feeding our bearded dragon at this point. All we have basically done is just reduce the hours that the lights have basically been on for. So at this point, when we have the 6 hours on, we're basically, again, given the exact same temperature for the basking spot. So if they want to come out to bask, that's fine, they can do so. And again, we're just having the lights on for 6 hours, and then it's off for the rest of the day and night, basically. Now, I continue this 6 hours on period all the way through from mid-November through to sort of mid-February. So let's say the 20th of February. And then what I tend to do is I'll basically reverse the cycle. So on the 20th of February, I'll change the timers for the heat lamp and the UVB lamp to go from 6 hours to 8 hours. And basically, we're just going to keep this cycle going of the 8 hour on period. And we're going to continue this to around mid-March. So basically, for an entire month, 4 weeks, we're going to have 8 hours on. And then once it's the 20th of March, let's say, we're going to, again, increase that daylight period from 8 hours to 12 hours, and this basically is going back to normal. So basically what you can see is from October, it's basically going to get darker, 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 and then it's going to get lighter, lighter, lighter. So it's basically just a steady dip in and then a steady dip out, basically. Now, during this period, like I say, it's completely normal for your bearded dragon to be quite sluggish, almost sleeping all of the time. They're not going to eat very much, if at all. Like I say, I don't actually feed my bearded dragons during this period of time, and this is completely fine as long as it's not losing around 10% or more of its body weight. So what I tend to do is, before my bearded dragon goes into hibernation, I'll basically weigh it so I know what the bearded dragon weighs, and as long as the bearded dragon doesn't lose more than 10% of its body weight, you've got nothing to worry about. If, however, let's say your bearded dragon has lost, I don't know, 15% of its body weight, all I would recommend doing is just simply, wherever you are within that cycle, just put the daylight periods back to 12 hours, get everything back up to normal, temperatures, you know, just everything goes back up to normal, and basically you're going to pull your bearded dragon out of hibernation, and then you can actually assess what's going on, and then you'll be able to sort of judge from there, or take it to a vet if needed. But only worry if it is more than 10% of their overall body weight before they had gone into hibernation. But if yours hasn't lost this much weight, you've got nothing to worry about, okay? There's nothing to stress about. So yeah, I hope that this video has, first of all, answered a lot of your questions if you are worried about what's going on with your bearded dragon. But second of all, I hope that this video has helped you sort of be able to understand how to actually go about trying to get your bearded dragons into this process. And like I say, once your bearded dragon does go down, they're basically just going to sleep for a long period of time. And like I say, they might come up here and there, and that's fine. If they want to, that's fine. You've given them a basking spot for if they do want to bask for a bit. Again, you've got the UVB on. You know, there's no problem there. If they do want to come out for a bit, they just probably won't come out for very long. So yeah, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. If you do have any questions whatsoever, drop them in the comment section below, because I will try and get back to you. If you did find this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you drop us a like to let me know that you enjoyed the video. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. Just simply type in @CoopsReptiles. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I shall see you in the next video. See ya!